Hello and welcome to Shea Stadium in New York, where the temperature is 45 degrees. It has been raining all morning, a 70% chance of rain this afternoon, but the baseball strike is over, and Major League Baseball is back with us as of today. And the world champion Pittsburgh Pirates have come to New York to face the New York Mets. Hello and welcome to chilly New York. I'm Jim Simpson along with Sandy Koufax, and the booing you hear in the background, Sandy, is not for us, but rather for the Pittsburgh Pirates, the world champions. So, of course, they're world champions 2 years after the New York Mets. But, Sandy, the big topic of conversation is the fact that the baseball strike is over. Today is the first day, and now for 2 weeks, nobody has really worked out, at least has not been in competition. Now, you and I were in the locker rooms of both the Pirates and the Mets, and everybody had a different idea of what effect it's going to have on the players.
I think, Jim, at the start of the season, everybody says the pitchers are ahead of the hitters. I think it's probably still true. The only problem will be if a pitcher beats himself. Normally, they'd come from spring training, they'd be a little sharper than they are now. I'm sure that most of them will still have good stuff, but it's a question of their control. If they get themselves into trouble, well, then, you know, maybe they can get hurt. But I think it's still the hitters who are going to be hurt worst this first week of the season. I think the people who will suffer most by the strike are the people who don't play regularly. The fellow who would play most in spring training, maybe play 4 or 5 innings a day in the spring, but won't play the first 2 weeks of the season. Well, it might be a month before he gets into a ball game. Your 7th, 8th, 9th pitchers on a staff, your utility men. It's going to be awfully tough for them to get back into shape.
Well, Sandy, since you are now a member of the Hall of Fame, voted in this year, and since you have the 4 no-hitters and everything else, everybody knows about Sandy Koufax, and therefore everybody knows that you held out 1 year. And you didn't go through any spring training, and then you came back and you pitched when, and how were you after that long layoff?
Well, Jim, I had a big problem there. I didn't have spring training. I went out, and I guess we threw for a week, both Don Drysdale and I. The season started. I didn't start opening day. I started the second day.
How did you do?
Well, next year I was a broadcaster.
Sandy, the cheers you hear in the background now, the New York Mets, of course, are being introduced. Now let's talk injury. It is a very cold, overcast day today. They have not been in competition for 2 weeks. What about the little things that in a pennant race could become the big things? The muscle pulls, for example.
Well, I think that's a big problem. I think a hitter who has not run hard, probably. I think a lot of the players will run to try and keep in shape. They haven't run that hard. In a little slow ground ball between short and third or between first and second, it smells a little bit like a base hit. There might be a tendency to run a little harder and possibly a hamstring muscle. Another problem is going to be today the outfield. The Mets have new grass in the outfield. It's very muddy, very soft. The Pirate outfielder, Willard Stargell, is just coming off a knee operation. He could hurt himself rather badly. The other Pirate coming off a knee operation, Gene Alley, isn't in the lineup, I think because of the weather.
Looking down to the field now, the New York Mets have been introduced, so have the Pirates. And in a moment, we're going to have some special ceremonies. But right now, baseball's game of the week will continue from Shea Stadium as the Pirates prepare to meet the New York Mets. Jim Simpson with Sandy Koufax back in New York, down on the field now, special ceremonies. And, of course, Yogi Berra has taken over as the manager since Gil Hodges passed away on the eve of his 48th birthday. And in a moment, they're going to have a moment of silence for the gentle giant, longtime teammate of my colleague Sandy Koufax, and, of course, his passing, it was quite a shock. Meantime now, a floral wreath presented to Yogi Berra, who has stepped in to begin his tenure as the first National League manager. First year of his managership, he managed for 1 year with the Yankees, of course, over in the American League. And there are 2 new National League managers. Berra, of course, is one, and the other is in the third base dugout, and Bill Verdon. In the American League, of course, there are 2 new managers, of course. That's Berra on the right, Verdon on the left, Ken Espremani of Cleveland, and Del Rice of California. Well, 4 new managers in Major League Baseball, which is starting about 2 weeks late. We will pause here now because we do not wish to miss the tribute to Gil Hodges.
To be sung by Metropolitan Opera star Robert Merrill. And may we ask you, please, to remain for a moment of silent tribute for the man we all loved and respected so deeply, the late Gil Hodges.
Well, the pregame ceremonies are over, including that tribute to the late Gil Hodges, as the 1970 season at last opened, days late, and without the wonderful personality and gentleman of the National League, Gil Hodges, the manager of the 1969 Miracle Mets, the manager until his death in spring training. Louis Kuhn, the commissioner of baseball, is here and will throw out the first ball. Jerry Grody awaits, and now the 1972 season is underway. Bill Verdon, the new manager of the Pirates, Yogi Berra, the new manager of the Mets, out meeting with the umpires, Ken Burkhart, home plate, Lee Wired first, Andy Olson at second, Dick Stello at third, and now for the first time in 72 for a championship game, the New York Mets take the field. As Rennie Stennett stands in against Tom Seaver, Cranepool is at first, Boswell at second, Harrelson at short, Fregosi at third, Jones in left, Tommy Agee in center, Staub, of course, in right, Grody the catcher, and Tom Seaver working on quite a string. In the last 3 years, he is 7-0 against the Pirates and has not lost to them, as we said, and along the way has had quite an impressive record. Stennett, who had a great spring, hitting more than 400, 409, fouls the first pitch off to the right. Last year, Seaver beat Doc Ellis about a year ago today, 1-0 on 3 hits. Struck out 14 and walked nobody. outside. It's 1-1 as Al Oliver is on deck. That is the bat boy right there. Breaking pitch. It's 1 ball, 2 strikes. There's Oliver. And then in September, Seaver beat the Pirates 3-1, and in 18 innings has allowed them 1 run, 4 hits, 1 walk, and he struck out 24. That was last year. At good 6 feet, his fastball misses outside. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Stennett.
So you have to look at Stennett hitting 400 in the spring and believe that he might be for real. The Pirates had him ineligible for the World Series last year, but when he came up at the end of the year, he hit 400 during the regular season.
Well, Tom Seaver, who last year set a record for right-handers in the National League with his strikeouts, 289, strikes out the first of 1972. Of course, the all-time league leader in the National League for strikeouts, the man to my right, Sandy Koufax. Al Oliver hitting at 282 for last year, but only 200 in spring training. Starts him off with a curveball in the dirt. Oliver's the one that says, I want to play every day. Roberto Clemente. Fastball, and there's the first base hit of the 1972 season.
Oliver, good fastball hitter, a good low fastball hitter, and Seaver, a low fastball pitcher. It was strength against strength, and in this case, Oliver won, but it's going to be no fun for the hitters today. Oliver looked like he hit that ball pretty good, yet it stung him. His hands were bothering him.
Well, here's Clemente. 341 last year, 86 RBIs, and then in the World Series, he hit .414. He has hit in 14 straight World Series games, and the only 14 he's been in. The only man in history to do that. Fastball fouled back. This telecast, presented by authority of Major League Baseball, intended solely for the private, non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of the game without the express written consent of the Commission of Baseball is prohibited. 1 out, 1 on, top of the first, no score. Seaver facing Clemente. What a matchup. Two strikes to Clemente. That's what Clemente did last year, 341, and then at home, away, and against right and left-handed pitchers, and Clemente strikes out.
It looked like Seaver threw the ball very well to Roberto there, but he threw some pitches I don't think he wanted to throw. He threw a couple of high fastballs, and the last pitch, a high slider that fooled Roberto, but I think that might have been a little bit of a control problem on Tom's part because of the layoff. Usually he'd like to keep his breaking ball down away, I would think.
Oliver's on first as Willie Stargell, 48 home runs. Last year, steps in. Hit 3 home runs in the spring, takes a strike. Seaver is throwing strikes. Remember, a year ago, Stargell hit 11 home runs in the month of April to set a new Major League record. He'll not have that chance this year unless he is just Mr. Wonder. Here it is, the 15th of April, and we're just starting. It is a cold day, and Richie Hebner hasn't even stepped out on deck yet with 2 outs. Blown away, 1 ball, 2 strikes to start. There's Al Oliver, and that is Ed Kranepool, a Met since he was 17 years old, holding him on. Breaking pitch, and it is foul ball. Oliver will have to come back. That's Staub going into the corner.
Again, Jim, I think Seaver made a little bit of a mistake with the breaking ball. He got it up and didn't mean to get it, right there for Stargell to hit it. You get away with pitches like that if sometimes you make them a little too bad. The ball was up and in, and Stargell, the only place he could hit it and hit it hard would be to pull it foul.
Another breaking pitch and struck him out. He struck out the side. Oliver got a base hit. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, and 1 left. We go to the last of the first inning with no score. Doc Ellis warms up. We'll have Sandy talk about Doc in a moment, but now about New York Mets' order of lineup. Bud Harrelson leads it off at shortstop. Ken Boswell, the second baseman, bats second. He's unhappy about that. He says he doesn't get enough chance for RBIs. Tommy Agee out in center field, batting third. Rusty Staub, the newcomer from Montreal, the right fielder, batting cleanup. Leon Jones, who perennially leads the team in batting average, batting fifth, playing left field. Jim Fregosi, the newcomer at third, bats sixth. Ed Cranepool, he's been at first base a long time. That's seventh. Catcher Jerry Cody is eighth. Tom Seaver's ninth. And Doc Ellis will face Bud Harrelson.
And Doc Ellis has good stuff. He's not overpowering with the fastball. His is a sinker-type fastball. He has very good curveball and slider. But like most breaking ball pitchers, Doc has to make his pitches, and it's a question of how much the layoff may have hurt his control.
Strike at the knees to Harrelson, who hit at 152 during the spring. Here's Ellis in slow motion.
You can take a look at Doc, and he's got good concentration. He stays on that catcher for a long time.
Breaking pitches down low. 1 ball, 1 strike to Bud Harrelson. A lot of people around the National League will tell you that Harrelson is the top shortstop in the league. Down in Philadelphia, they're beginning to disagree. They think they've got him and Larry Bowa. We'll be seeing them all here on NBC's Game of the Week. Down out of play. They, of course, play Harrelson, who has great speed, not much power, straight away, and very short. That is Ken Boswell on deck. Harrelson has hit 2 home runs in his life in the major leagues. Breaking pitch in the dirt. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Ellis, of course, last year was 14-3 at the All-Star game. Started for the National League out in Detroit. Wound up 19-9. Which meant that he was 5-6 over the second half of the season. Breaking pitch and struck him out.
Sure, I think you can see something today that usually you might question. There's a rule that the pitcher can't go to their mouth when they're on the mound. I think because of the weather, the umpire said that the pitcher may blow on his hand without having to get off that circle in the middle of the diamond. So there won't be any box call or balls called for a pitcher who goes to his mouth while he's still in that circle of the mound. I think both pitchers have been given that permission.
Here's Boswell batting at 273 as far as last year is concerned, taking a strike, 375 in the spring. Ebner in close to the grass. For Boswell in the last of the first inning, 1 out, none on, no score. Ground ball, first chance for an infielder, slow roller. Robertson scoops to Ellis, and there's 1 out. Here's Tommy Agee, 285 hitter last year, had his problems with his knee. Don Hahn had to substitute for him a great deal out in center field, but recovered now and hit 373 in the spring. Well, it is bitterly cold here in New York, baseball speaking. But what a thrill it is to be back and to have the 1972 season underway. Breaking pitch, strike. Around both leagues last year in October, they were saying that Doc Ellis, one of the finest pitchers and leads both leagues, is being unhappy with his hotel room and the beds in them. Several incidents involving Doc, ground ball, foul behind the plate. Timing the breaking pitch.
Jim, I don't know about his hotel room, but Doc's had good control here in this first inning, and usually that's a sign that it's going to continue. If a pitcher has control trouble, it's usually early in the ball game.
That's Rusty Staub on deck. Foul out of play. Well, you can tell about the weather. There are some empty seats here. Saturday, the beloved Mets of New York opening at home. Season delayed. They would have had a sellout here on their regular opener last Tuesday, but combination of the circumstances, mostly the weather, has kept the crowd down, and he looks at a third call strike. A 1-2 inning, 3 inning for Doc Ellis, and at the end of 1 inning of play, Pittsburgh Pirates, the world champions, nothing, and the New York Mets, nothing. Is over at third base. That is Frank Osiak, the coach, and the fellow in the upper left-hand corner is at first base, and that is Don Leppard. Coaches for the Pirates as Rich Hebner. 271 hitter last year, but had 17 home runs and 67 RBIs. And for Richie, that's his best power year in the majors. Hebner also hit left-handers very well last year. No scores. We start the top of the second. Third ball misses outside. Seaver struck out the side, gave up a single to left on the fastball to Oliver in the first inning. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Jim, watching the first inning, you'd have to think that shortened spring training and shortened season hasn't affected anything too very much. Both pitchers looked like they were in pretty good shape, ahead of the hitters. It's a question of stamina now. I don't think that either manager wants the pitchers to go over 6 innings, so I think you can pretty much figure it's going to be a 6-inning ball game for the starters, or maybe 80 or so pitches, whichever one comes first.
And Tom Seaver, of course, Sandy, has been trying to stay in shape, but remember, Seaver is the player representative for the Mets, so in all of these strike talks and negotiations, Tom was not working out. He was working with the rest of the player reps. 2 balls, 1 strike to Hebner. Now it's 2-2. On deck is the smiling man, Manny Sanguillen. It's also going to be interesting in that in the negotiations, the American League convinced the National League to dump all of the games missed, because for a long time the American League has been trying to get the game back to about 154 games. The National League has resisted. They did not in this case, and it'll be interesting to see over the winter whether they go back to 162, come back to 154, or what. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Fastball backs him out of there. It's 3-2. It's the first full count we've had in the game. Gray and overcast with a lot of rain expected throughout the afternoon, night, and tomorrow here in New York. Burkhart, the umpire, behind home plate. Wire at first, Olson at second, Stello at third. Fouled away. And there's the first great catch by a fan of the year.
I think that's why all these balls fouled back, why the fastball pitchers have to throw so many pitches in a ball game. There are usually a lot of balls fouled back out of play, and you just keep throwing the ball.
That's Cranepool making the put out.
And it can affect you late in the ball game on a hot day.
Hebner is out and Manny Sanguillen. Well, one of the real fine hitters in baseball today, Manny Sanguillen. And as great a catcher as he is, they're still talking about perhaps moving Sanguillen to the outfield, because Clemente's going to retire someday, because behind Sanguillen is young 21-year-old Milt May, who was quite a catcher himself and quite a hitting catcher. Slider for strike 1. Sanguillen hit .319 last year. Did not have a good spring, hit at 180. Another breaking pitch, misses. Well, Manny wants all the help he can get. He's wearing 2 gloves. Ground ball up the middle. Harrelson after it can't get it. Second base hit off Seaver.
And Sanguillen really runs the ball out well. He runs very hard to first, makes the big turn. The outfielder is just a little lazy. You get to see his swing here. He was a very heavy bat, possibly the heaviest in the major leagues. He didn't hit the ball well. He got the big bounce. It got over Seaver's head and out into center field. As I started to say, he really runs it out. And if the outfielder is just a little lazy and doesn't charge the ball, he's going to take 2. You'll end up with him at second base.
Bob Robertson swings, big swing and miss. Robertson, 271 hitter last year, 26 home runs, and, well, he was one of the fabulous stories of the World Series. Third game of that series, Danny Murtaugh flashed him the bunt sign. Robertson didn't see it, hit a 3-run home run. Seaver pouring the fastball by him.
Bob's a good low fastball hitter, and I think Tom probably go with the good hard stuff up high. He's capable of throwing very hard, and I think that's the pitch that probably get Robertson.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Top of the second, 1 out. Sanguillen at first, no score. This is a game I thought would never be played. Took a look at the weather this morning and you say, no way. But here we are. Strike. Seaver has struck out man number 4.
Batting in the 8th position, the shortstop, number 2, Jackie Hernandez.
Well, we said that Tom last year in 2 appearances against the Pirates struck out 24 men in the 18 innings. Gave up only 1 walk. Here's Jack Hernandez. Called on much of last year to fill in for the injured Gene Alley, who had knee surgery in the fall, and Hernandez is still here as the season opens. Alley not fully recovered. Base hit. Sanguillen on his way around second. Staub is up, and Sanguillen is going to walk right back to second base. Then at first and second, with the pitcher Doc Ellis up.
Jim, and on that play, the fact that the pitcher is the next hitter is one of the reasons Sanguillen really didn't try for the extra base. You're in a situation like this, you want to get that hitter to the plate, the pitcher to the plate in this case, to get him out of the way a little bit. I don't feel like I'm insulting Doc, but I'm sure that if you asked him, he'd tell you Stennett has a better chance of getting a base hit. And you start that next inning with your leadoff man again. And if you get thrown out at third, well, the pitcher starts the inning, and it's awfully tough to score runs when you're leading the pitcher off in an inning.
Ellis hit .203 last year, which is by far and away the best year he ever had as a hitter. Takes a strike. Doc had 16 hits in 1971, and that is 1 more than he had in his 3 prior Major League years.
Well, I think also a lot depends on who you're hitting against. And in this case, Tom Seaver, as a pitcher, you may be a little overmatched hitting against Tommy.
1 ball, 1 strike. Well, we have 10 Monday night Major League games this year on NBC. And every Saturday from now on, the All-Star Game, Championship Playoffs, World Series. 2 balls, 1 strike. Down at second base is Sanguillen. On at first is Hernandez. And on deck is Rennie Stennett, the man the odds would say will lead off the 3rd inning instead of get the bat here, but we shall see. Ground ball. Fair ball. Seaver there for the easy play to first base, a little high, but Cranepool comes down with it, and Seaver and the Mets are out of trouble. No runs on 2 hits. No errors, 2 men left. We go to the last of the 2nd inning still. The Pittsburgh Pirates nothing and the New York Mets nothing. Along with Sandy Koufax, this is Jim Simpson and the crowd here at Shea Stadium, which I would imagine when they hear the announcement will give quite an ovation to the batter about to come to the plate. Rusty Staub to make his first appearance as the New York Mets. Here's last year's batting leaders against the Pirates. Cleon Jones had the best year, of course, but they're all top hitters. Tommy Agee, Dave Marshall, and Cranepool, with only Marshall being used sparingly. And now here comes Rusty Staub, Legrand Orange, and it looks like he's still in Montreal. It's cold, and he doesn't have long sleeves on. He's out of his mind. The fellow that they expect to give the added punch that the Mets so sorely need. Hit .311 last year, 19 home runs, 97 RBIs at Jerry Park in Montreal. Takes a fastball from Doc Ellis, strike 1. Knocks him out of there. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Jim, I hope we don't put any sort of bad luck on Doc, but I've got to think he's fully recovered from the elbow trouble he had last year. Just watching him in this inning, last inning, and a little bit here, he's throwing harder than I saw him throw at any time at the end of last season. He's had an exceptional fastball today, and I didn't realize he threw that hard.
Well, remember, we're calling again with Bill Burton told us, Sandy, that his only problems when the strike began, which kind of slowed him up a little bit, not meaning Ellis, but the entire team, were the knees of Stargell and Alley. Other than that, Pirates were right on schedule and said Ellis is throwing very well. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Staub, who grounds us from foul at the plate. Which would mean that the Pirates, defending champions, are really in business. Cleon Jones, also a 300 hitter a year ago, on deck. Can you imagine Cleon Jones and Tommy Agee on the same high school baseball team? They were in Mobile, Alabama. I wonder if they ever lost a game.
If they didn't have good pitching, they probably did.
Oh, smoking like a left-hander. Look out, Rusty. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Last of the second, no score. Ellis got the Mets 1, 2, 3 in the last of the first. Base hit. What a way to make your debut. And Cleon Jones coming to bat. And as Cleon walks in, this program note that NBC News will begin its 13-day coverage of the Apollo 16 flight by reporting events from Cape Kennedy and Mission Control in Houston. And liftoff, remember, is tomorrow, right here on NBC. Jones, a 200 hitter in the spring, but 319 last year, 14 home runs and 69 RBIs. His wife got him on ship-to-shore radio. He's fishing in Mobile Bay when the news the strike was over came in. Low, ball 1. Bottom of the second inning at Cincinnati. Dodgers lead the Reds 1-0. New York at Baltimore. It's raining, so much so they postponed the ball game. Strike. 1-1. That is Jim Fregosi. And that is Rusty Staub. 2 men with other teams last year, sandwiched around the present batter, Cleon Jones, who has a count of 1-1.
With the threat of rain and the fact that you've got a fellow like Tom Seaver pitching for you, there could be a tendency to try and get a run very early. And if Ellis falls behind in the count, possibly to give Staub a chance to run and maybe let Cleon swing on trying for the hit and run or whatever you can do to try and get a run early in the ballgame. There's a chance that this game may get rained on before it's over, and you want to give Seaver a lead as fast as you can. He usually doesn't need much.
1-1 the count, right up the middle. Base hit. Players right in front of Oliver, so Staub will stop at second. That's the punch they expected, and now Jim Fregosi. And believe it or not, I think we mentioned this at the outset, Fregosi becomes the 46th man that the New York Mets have put at third base to see whether or not he can hold it down. Fregosi, with a lot of trouble last year, hit only .233. He had a nerve tumor on his right foot that finally required surgery. And then in the spring, he fractured his right thumb this year, but now he's back, says he's ready to play. Ball away, ball 1. No score, 2 on, last of the second. One ball, 1 strike.
I think you can look down at the lineup card now and say, well, maybe why doesn't Yogi bunt him over? He's got a left-hand hitter up next, but I think if he did that, then you'd have to have Grody and Seaver driving him in. He'd probably load up the bases. So Yogi wants to give Fregosi a chance to swing the bat here and not take it out of Kranepool's hands also.
Breaking pitch misses. It's 2-1. "17 years old when he first started playing for the Mets out of a high school in the Bronx. Ed Kranepool on deck. Drive right field. Back goes Clemente, one of the premier outfielders, but will he be able to go far enough? No, sir. Staub had to hold up. Is now on his way home. Clemente's throw goes to the cutoff man, and it's held up. It's 1-0. They had to hold up with a man like Clemente going after that ball, and the wind blowing in. Clemente could not get to it. It's a double for Fregosi, so Staub and Fregosi have impressive debuts with the New York Mets.
Jim, and I don't think that's going to happen again to Roberto Clemente. I don't think he knew Fregosi well enough. I think possibly the Pirates underestimated his power. Fregosi hit that ball a long way to right field, and I think Clemente was fooled. He was playing in shallow, for a chance to possibly cut off the run at the plate, or maybe even keep the runners from tagging up and going, and the ball was hit over his head.
A left-hander has begun to warm up for the Pirates, as Kranepool had his best year last year, 14 home runs, 58 RBIs, first base open, Grody on deck, ground ball, it is foul. Picked up by the brand new first base coach of the Mets, Sheriff Robinson. That is Luke Walker out there. Hit high in the air. Oliver starred it in, went back, now comes on fast. Stargell is there. Stargell takes it. The tag and the throw home. And down the line comes Leon Jones. It's 2-0. One out now. Fregosi remains at second base, and here is Grody. 270 hitter. Fine defensive catcher. Well, Doc Ellis got Harrelson, Boswell, and Agee. 1, 2, 3, striking out 2 of them. The third he got on a weak ground ball in the first inning. Simpson, Staub, Jones, Fregosi have all hit the ball hard, and it's 2-0. Popped up. Hebner comes out. Sanguillen is over. Sanguillen says, "You've got it, Rich," and he does. That'll bring up Tom Seaver. That is Fregosi standing out at second base. A double and RBI in his first time up in the National League, the championship season. Seaver, pretty fair hitter, some powers, hit a couple of home runs in his career. Both against Montreal pitching. One in Montreal, one here. Well, when you consider he faced the Pirates twice last year and gave them just 1 run and struck out 24 men in 18 innings, a couple of runs is a lot to work with. Breaking pitch to strike. Top of the third inning out in Cincinnati. Dodgers and Reds are all tied, 1 apiece. The ball is low and away. 1 ball, 1 strike. The New York Mets announced today that they have retired Gil Hodges' number 14. The only other number they have retired, Casey Stengel, who served them for so many years, number 37. Fastball misses. 2 balls, 1 strike. Center field. Al Oliver sticks up his glove saying that he has it and does. But the Mets score 2 runs on 3 base hits. No errors, 1 man left. We've gone through 2 innings now, and the New York Mets lead the world champion Pittsburgh Pirates by that score of 2-0. The Pirates trailed the Mets. Top of the third and the top of the batting order, Stennett, Oliver, and Clemente. Stennett struck out looking in the first inning, one of Seaver's 4 strikeout victories. That's him off with a breaking pitch, ball 1. Comes back with the fastball. He fouls it off to the right. Kranepool trots over, but it'll make the seat.
Jim, I think the Mets have new uniforms this year also. Teams like the Pirates, you can see that they're new. They're the double knits. But the Mets got not a different appearing uniform, but evidently a different feeling uniform. They've gone to the double knit uniforms, and all the players have said that it's the best feeling uniform they've ever worn. And I think that new freedom of the double knit type uniforms got to make a player feel a little bit better.
1 ball, 2 strikes. You can see the mourning band on the left arm of Seaver there. For Gil Hodges, his Staub in, and he has trapped the ball. Base hit for Stennett.
Rusty almost made a very good play, but a very dangerous play with the leadoff hitter in an inning. If you let him go to second, if the ball gets by you, you can see him sort of dive here, and he just trapped it. If the ball gets by him, it's going all the way to the wall. It's going to be at least a triple or possibly an inside the park home run for a fellow who runs as well as Stennett does. With nobody out, try and keep the ball in front of you and just keep it to a single.
Oliver hit a fastball and single to left back in the first inning. Makes a breaking pitch for strike one. Staub, I would imagine, is a little cold and wet now. That outfield is very, very wet. 2 strikes.
And Tom Seaver's thrown quite a few pitches already. I think you can see that wet spot on Staub's uniform. But Seaver has thrown quite a few pitches already in 2+ innings. He threw 35 in the 2 innings and thrown about 5 or 6 this inning. He probably has about 41 inning pitches. And there was a good fastball up and into Oliver. In the first inning, Oliver got the fastball down. He's a good low ball hitter, and he hit a line drive there. Tom got it up, and Oliver just couldn't handle it.
5 strikeouts now for Seaver. Stemming goes first with 1 out in the third. Here's Clemente, who struck out swinging at a high slider. Seaver got him on 3 pitches in the first inning. And at that time, Sandy commented a couple of them, the first 2, Seaver didn't want to throw where he threw them, but Clemente took them and then went for the high breaking slider. It's begun to rain a little bit. Low and away, ball 1. And umbrellas are up, and this is what everybody fears. But it's going to have to rain quite a bit for them to shut this one down. All the games they missed with a strike. High drive, Staub coming over, Agee there. Rusty Staub says he has it, now chases it in the wind and takes it for the second out. That'll bring up Stargell. Now you can tell it's cold here, Sandy. Once one man goes out, the next man is ready to hit. You don't wait for him to walk over from the on-deck circle. They're ready to go. 2-0 the score. Top of the third. The Mets lead it, getting both their runs in the last of the second. Breaking pitch, strike 1. Stargell struck out, looked at a curveball, swinging at a curveball to end the first inning. Comes back with the fastball, 1-1.
Stargell has a tendency to strike out a lot, which makes it just a little bit incredible. Not the fact that he hit so many home runs last year, but he's also a 300 hitter, so he gets a good mileage out of the ball when he does hit it. A fellow who hits 300, you wouldn't think of him as a man who's going to strike out a lot.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Outfield pull way around to the right for Stargell, who hits a drive. Agee, by reflex, started back when Stargell hits one and then had to come in and take it. So Seaver, after giving up a base hit to Stennett, gets Oliver, Clemente, and now Stargell. We go to the last of the third with the New York Mets leading the world champion Pittsburgh Pirates by the score of 2-0.